In a dramatic reversal, the UK placing a ban on Chinese telecom giant Huawei from its 5G network. This after facing months of pressure from the White House to do so. And Nile Gardiner joins us to talk about this. Heritage Foundation's Margaret Thatcher Center for Freedom. And at the White House, meantime, the president, Nile, is getting set, we're told, to talk about China in a few minutes. But I want to address this UK issue first. It was interesting to see Boris Johnson's government reverse a January decision which would have allowed Huawei to operate there on a limited basis. What led up to this? What do you make of it?
Yes, Connell, certainly this is a very significant development in the United Kingdom. It's a dramatic U-turn by the British government, reversing a decision taken by Downing Street back in January to allow Huawei a 35% stake in Britain's 5G network. And so this reversal, I think, is based upon a number of things. I think, firstly, tremendous U.S. opposition and pressure on the U.K. to reverse a course here, and also new sanctions being brought in by the Commerce Department just a few weeks ago against Huawei. Secondly, I think that there's a huge rebellion within Parliament against Huawei, and a large number of Conservative backbenchers are deeply unhappy with the idea of Huawei having a role in the UK's 5G network. And so the government was listening to concerns within its own party. And then thirdly, I think that China has done itself no favours with its appalling reaction to the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic. Attitudes have hardened significantly against China since the beginning of the outbreak, not only in Britain but across Europe. And I think all of these factors have combined together to create a sort of perfect storm, which has forced the British government to completely do an about turn on its earlier policy with regard to Huawei. And I think this is absolutely the right decision for the British government to make now.
It's that point you made about the trouble that Huawei has, or that China, I should say, has brought upon itself in the handling of COVID. I think you're right that probably played into this. It brings up a larger point, though. Huawei does a lot of business, not only in the UK, but Europe. 24% of its sales came from Europe. So will other countries follow, I guess would be one question. And the other question is, if you're the UK, do you worry about backlash now from China? I guess they were willing to go forward with it, so maybe that answers part of that.
Yes, well, I think on the first question there, I would say this is a big game changer for the whole of Europe, because every government in Europe is looking closely at the British response on Huawei. And already you have the chairman of the Bundestag Foreign Relations Committee in Berlin saying that Germany should closely listen to what the British are doing here. And I expect that the Germans are going to push Huawei out as well when they make their big decision later on this year. And I think practically every European government, I think, will give will certainly push Huawei out of the door. So this is a huge game changer. It could be the beginning of the end for Huawei's operations in Europe. Hugely damaging, of course, to Huawei and to its Chinese Communist Party overlords. And certainly the Chinese government is already making threats against Britain and against any European country that dares to kick out Huawei. And I think that we have to take these threats very seriously. For example, the Chinese could launch, cyber attacks against the UK. So we have to be on our guard. But we cannot allow ourselves to be bullied or intimidated by the Chinese Communist government in Beijing. This is a big defeat for Beijing. They're going to suffer a lot more defeats in the coming months across Europe.
Big win for the Trump administration as well, especially Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. Nile Gardiner, thank you. And I know Melissa will hear more about China here, we think, right, in a few minutes.